Alright guys, welcome to the second video in Module 2, the Theory of Everything Part 2, the Power of the Mind. In this video, we're going to be introducing a new model of reality, which is called the mind is all creative. And what this is going to do for you is it's going to completely uncover and expose this old, outdated model of reality that we've been relying upon, but which has actually been causing us anxiety. And we're going to understand how it happens, and we're going to be able to change it moving forward. So, first of all, though, let's look at what is the old model of reality that most of us are currently living in. It looks something like this. So here I am. This is me. This is just who I take myself to be, right? This is just a guy. I take myself to be this guy. So this is my identity. And so normally we think of ourselves as a particular person, right? And that's just who we are, like this guy right here. That's me. And so I think that I'm a person and I live in this particular culture. And, this culture and the society I grew up in is, it's just basically, it's the world, and it's existing within the world, which takes place on planet Earth. And, that takes place in the galaxy. And, the thing is, though, this, although this is a very common model of reality that most people are living in, but it's not the only model of reality that we could be living in. There are many different ways that we can look at the situation that we're in. And this is just the one that's most common in our society today. However, the problem is that this worldview actually causes anxiety. And we're going to show you why. This worldview leaves you feeling, very alone oftentimes, or lonely. You feel separate. You can feel at odds with others maybe at times. You feel like you don't have a connection. We often feel like we're in competition for basic needs, and that leaves us vulnerable. Resources are scarce, and I'm alone. I got to figure this out. There's this pressure on top of me. And I'm easily victimized when I think of myself like this. This is a giant world that's out there. It's a very scary thing. Life is precarious. I don't have a lot of control. And so, anything can happen. And I feel self-conscious about myself. I worry about what others think of me. I feel judged. And all this is very important because, if I'm not approved of, I could, lose the love that I feel like I need, which makes life worth living, which actually, gives me meaning. And if I don't feel accepted by others, that just, that triggers all kinds of programming, from survival needs. And so I won't feel a sense of security if I don't have that approval. I may feel like the world's just out to get me, and I don't have anybody I can rely on. These are all kinds of ways in which, we create anxiety for ourselves by believing that we are this person, and these are our problems. And some of the problems we might think that things are getting worse for me. I don't even know if my life has any meaning. Why do I even go on? And, I can't forgive myself or others for the past, and I'm stuck. And so if you have the belief or the identity of someone who is a victim, or someone who is anxious, or someone who has all these problems and challenges and they're alone, or, just that you have, issues, emotional insecurities, fears, things you worry about. All this stuff shows that you don't trust in who you are and your ability to figure this thing out and to handle the situation whenever there's a crisis presented, or, just to be able to navigate the complexities of life and be okay. And so we've created a faulty character. We've created someone who is, not really confident in their ability to navigate life. And so the whole understanding here that I want you to take away is that anxiety is created at the level of identity. It doesn't exist out in the world. It's not out there. We may think that certain circumstances and situations bring about anxiety, but it is all taking place at the level of our own identity. What are we fearing that this is going to mean to us, to me? How does this affect me? How do they look at me? What if I can't do this? Am I worthwhile? Am I valuable? Am I worthy of love? All this kind of stuff, this is all about our identity. And if we want to destroy anxiety, we must destroy the cause of anxiety. So if we understand that the cause is being created at the level of identity, that empowers us to be able to change it and to move forward. So let's examine this thing a little bit further. So I put forth that in this new model of reality, we're looking at that the mind is all creative. Well, what does that mean? Think of it like this. Everything is being created from the inside out. We are, this whole body, our whole experience of life, our world that we live in, our identity, who we take ourselves to be, the meaning that we give life, all this stuff is being created within our own minds. And so, what does that mean though? How does it doing this? Well, it's doing it a number of ways right now. We can verify this for ourselves. It creates with the sense organs, number one. This is how we get our experience of life. When I think I'm, seeing a picture on the wall over there, what's really happening is, light is bouncing off of that and it's being directed into my retinas, and then, that is being decoded by, these processes within the back of my neocortex, and then it's getting flipped upside down and projected inside my own mind. And that is what I actually experience. I don't ever actually experience the picture on the wall over there. I only ever experience my own mind's projection of that based on what it takes in through the senses to a large degree. So what I'm smelling, what I'm tasting, what am I touching, what am I seeing, in my world around me. This is what, is responsible for my experience. This is what's creating my experience. So all this sensory data and sensory input is coming into my brain, is coming into my nervous system, up the spine, all throughout my body. There's, these nerves that carry information, and the whole thing is alive and intelligent. And based on the information that it's receiving, it's creating this incredible experience. Like in real time, this is what's happening. It's projecting this experience. And so it not only creates with the sense organs, though, there's a whole other way that the mind is creative, and that is it creates with imagination. And with imagination, we have dreams, for instance. It creates, when you're in the middle of a dream, it often feels exactly like it's real. And that's because you're very invested in what's going on. It seems real. There's all the sensory data, all of the, the sights and sounds and the emotions even in the dream, So that makes it really, feel very, very real. And this is all the mind is what the mind is creating in the moment, and you're experiencing it, and you believe in it. And it's the same way in life when we're imagining what things mean to us, when we're giving meaning to experiences. That's using the imagination. We're using our own mind to create based on, what we think and feel and believe. So this is the mind working to create all of this whole entire experience. It creates it with the sense organs, but it also creates with the imagination. And the thing is, to the mind, imagination and perception are equal. It really doesn't weigh one more, equally important than the other. It's just, if you imagine something to be incredibly real and you use all the data, all the sensory data, the smells, the sounds, and you imagine this very, very clearly. You can try this for yourself right now. Imagine you have this lemon in front of you and it's just glistening. This lemon's beautiful. And just take a moment to do this. Allow yourself to visualize and picture this shiny yellow lemon right in front of you. It's literally glistening with dew. And, you take the knife and you just a couple strokes back and forth, you're carving right into it, and juice is just squirting out into the air. Oh, you wink, you blink your eye back because you don't want to get that in your eye. And, it's to split it apart and see how juicy it is. This thing is perfectly ripe to perfection. And you're just going to take that thing and just bring it right up to your open mouth and put it in there and chomp right on down. Oh, yeah, just give it a good bite. And you notice that your body reacted to that, because if you used your imagination powerfully and strongly enough, which I'm sure that you did, your mind didn't know the difference, and so your body reacted to it. This is the power that we have available to us. We can create anything that we want in our experience. And so we can also create a character that we choose. And this is the difference. See, imagination and perception being equal, we have the power to be a king, and become, an incredible inspiration to others, the master of our lives and a leader, someone who is worthy of respect and honor and appreciation, a champion of men and women. We can be all these things if we choose, or we could also subsequently choose ourselves to be a beggar and give ourselves the identity of a victim. We tend to become what we imagine ourselves to be. So if we take ourselves to be a king and we treat ourselves with respect and we command that respect in others, we will experience an entirely different life than if we consider ourselves to be very low. And, this will determine whether we become victims of anxiety or victorious over anxiety. This capability of being able to master this power of changing how we think of ourselves and how we see ourselves. And so we've already started to begin this process through the affirmations and through the releasing processes and, a little bit of the theoretical model that's been put so forth. And we're going to get deeper into it right now. So, I want you to think about for a moment, just think about virtual reality. Now, virtual reality is like this world that you enter when you put on these glasses and, you put these headphones on. And so what it does is it takes over your senses of sight and sound, and it starts to project into your mind these other impulses, this other data, not what's actually going on in the world around us, but this other data that, that the machine is putting in there. And so we start to experience this rich new world filled with light and sound. And, there's, we may encounter other people or, objects and things, beautiful scenery. But, once we put these things on and we give ourselves a moment or two to adjust and allow ourselves to, relax into the experience a little bit, then all of a sudden, we're transported into this alternate reality, and we don't experience the world out there anymore, but we experience this entirely separate world that's of our own creation and exists within our own minds. So we no longer experience the world out there, but we experience a projection of our own mind. And understanding this, starts to give us a cue into the capability that we have at our disposal here. So if the mind is able to produce an entire world based on just a couple senses, think of how much more powerfully we'll be able to change, our perception and our experience once we master this power and we really take the reins and take the power back. And so what we're doing is we're really changing over our entire perception and our experience. And we're doing it by, actually, these affirmations are changing the way that we think about ourselves, and they're changing the way that we see ourselves. And also the consciousness expansion practices that we've been doing and that we're going to continue doing and what's coming up, as well as changing our paradigm and worldview. This is really like giving us an entire upgrade of our system. And so what we're doing here is, in computer terminology, we're basically upgrading. And so if we change the software and we upgrade the firmware, the software being our mental programming, our attitude, and our identity, and the firmware is the paradigm and worldview through which we see and experience everything. If we change and upgrade those things, then we experience an entirely new reality. But we must become the master programmer in order to make this happen. We have to understand that it's up to us to take the reins back and to determine, who am I going to become? Who am I becoming? We're going to have to lay this character out foundationally, and we have to choose which character we're going to build. When we do this intentionally, we have to determine the traits that we're going to put in. It's like we're starting from scratch, so we have to figure out what goes in and what doesn't go in. What are the, weaknesses that we're going to make sure that we root out and look for? And, what are the strengths? And, what are the capacities that this character is going to have? What is his mindset? All these things are going to determine exactly how we experience things going forward and what's possible for us, and exactly how much anxiety we feel. If we build a weak character, he's going to be incredibly prone to anxiety. But if we build someone who's strong, who knows that he can trust in himself, and that he is incredibly empowered because he's in control of the one thing that matters the most, which is his own mind, which determines the meaning that any experience gives to him, and which thereby will determine the outcome that his life has. And so when we take this by the horns and we take control of this situation, then it's up to us, and we can determine, do I want to be and make myself into a king, or do I want to be a beggar? It is entirely up to us. Once we have these tools and this understanding, we're literally taking back the wheels. We're taking back the wheel controlling our lives. And so it's up to us now. Once we have this power, then we must build a new identity. As I said before in the previous video, we have to build this new identity on the ashes of the old. And we're going deep into the psyche to do these things. We're working at a very, very profound level, at the subconscious level, as well as the conscious level. And we're restructuring the identity. And, we're seeing that if we really want to master this game of life, if we really want to, achieve what we want to achieve, and if we want to be able to play and have a good time doing it and not be riddled with anxiety and feel like we're being held back, if we want to be able to, compete at an entirely different level than what the pack is doing, that herd mentality, everyone is competing against one another. And if we want to really set ourselves far apart from the pack, we're going to be looking at this thing in a whole different way. We're going to be thinking outside the box. We're not racing against everyone else. There is no competition. We recognize our own foundation, our own inner strength, and we recognize our own worth and value. And we begin to rely upon that. And then suddenly we recognize that we're not even in the same league as everyone else. I mean, we have become a rare individual who's far, far apart from the pack, and who claims victory over any anxiety, any fears, any holdbacks, anything that was previously stopping him. He's a new creature, and he is completely unstoppable and anxiety-free. Now, that sounds great, but how do we do it? I mean, how do we do this thing? How do we restructure the identity, and how do we destroy the old anxiety-causing worldview and model? And so we must establish a new worldview and paradigm. And whatever we decide, whoever we decide to become moving forward, we could take ourselves to be, we are, here we are, we're this anxiety-destroying warrior. Oh, wait a minute. No, wait, that's not right. We're just a regular guy, right? Yeah, we're just a regular guy, a regular girl. And, we're just a regular person, just like this guy. And so, this person exists in the culture, right? And the culture exists within the world, here on planet Earth. And that planet Earth consists of, being in the middle of the galaxy and the universe. And, that universe exists within the mind. And this is where we have our power and our ability to change things. And so the mind also exists within the greater awareness, the infinite space of pure awareness. And awareness is our basic nature. In this worldview, our most essential basic element is pure awareness, undivided and unattached and non-dependent on anything else. And so this awareness is our basic nature, and our lives get played out onto the screen of this awareness. And so we don't experience the world out there, but we actually experience a projection of our own mind. And so again, here is the identity. Here's me. And so I'm just a regular guy. And, oh, wait a minute. No, I can be whoever I want. I don't have to just be a regular guy. That's right. I can change my identity. Yeah, I'm not a regular guy. I'm an anxiety-destroying warrior. Yes. Okay, that's who I am. Yes. I'm an anxiety-destroying warrior. And I live in this culture. I experience this incredible culture in this society in which I was thrust into magically, wondrously. And within that culture, it exists on this planet that we all live on. And, this planet exists, this is our world. And it exists inside of a galaxy that's infinite in space and time. And that galaxy entirely exists within my own infinite mind. And that mind, that infinite mind, exists also within awareness, the pure, unadulterated, essential nature of my own being. The infinite and indestructible, fathomless, incredible, infinite depth of pure consciousness and being. And so because this is how I see the world now, this is how I'm looking at the world now, this is my worldview, this is my paradigm. And because imagination and perception are equal to the mind, right? So it doesn't matter whether I actually perceive it out, within from my senses, or if I imagine it within my mind, then I will actually experience reality in this way. And I will have the fluidity of being able to malleably change my character into whomever I choose, however I see fit. And because my character will determine whether or not I experience anxiety, you see, and how I function in the world and how I perceive the world around me. It's all determined by the character that I build and my worldview. So by changing these two things, my entire experience of life is transformed and anxiety is destroyed. Now, here's a question that comes up sometimes, because what if I just am imagining all this stuff and then I just, become delusional? What if I don't have any anxiety, but, I'm just like a crazy person who has all these beliefs and ideas about life and the way things are and about who he is, but it doesn't really, match up with reality. And so it all comes down to your intention and your awareness. If you have the intention of creating this character, then you're not going to be susceptible to, delusion, because you realize what's going on. You realize that you had this power all along. You created the character that you take yourself to be now, and you realize that this character's got flaws and faults, and he's not up to the task. And you love and appreciate this character for what they offered you, but it's time. We've taken them as far as we can go down this road, so it's time to exchange for a new one. And so you have this intention moving forward that this is what you're creating. And you also do this with a high level of awareness, because you're understanding that you have the capacity to see this differently, that you have the capacity to recognize that this is another way of looking at things, which is equally valid, but which also is completely free of anxiety and gives you the freedom also to be whoever you choose to be, to go forth and march forward in your life with determination and, with renewed vigor, and to never give up, to never feel like you're being overwhelmed by life, or that you're so alone, that you're just so dependent on others and situations for your happiness and for your sense of security and your sense of self. This absolutely puts you in command of your own life, because we're doing it at the level of creation of the identity. That determines everything that you experience from here on out. And because you are giving yourself the power to create this identity, to create this best version of yourself, you can absolutely take on any challenge and any obstacle with the assuredness and knowing that you will be victorious, because you can create any character who can overcome any challenge. You can develop any skill that you need to, and you possess the resources to make it happen. And this is what you're going to program in. So let's go over what we covered here. I know this was a lot. This video had a lot going on, and you're going to want to watch it over and again to really get this thing lodged into your system. But what we talked about is how the mind is all creative, and it creates our entire experience of life, and it creates everything from the inside out. And the way it does that is it creates with the sense organs, with the sensory data that's coming in, and it also creates with the imagination, with the thoughts that we have, with our beliefs, with the things that we think about, picture in our minds, and also the person we take ourselves to be is largely determining the anxiety that we feel, because anxiety is caused by our worldview, and our worldview is completely lodged up in our identity. So we need to take command of these two things in order to transform our experience and to destroy anxiety. And, we do this by taking control of our mind's ability to create the character. And, because we understand we only experience projections of our own minds. So it's not up to us to change the world out there so much, but it's up to us to change the world in here by changing the perceiver and the way that we perceive the world. So that's what we got for this video. I'm super excited moving forward. We've covered a lot so far, but we're going to dive really deep and wrap this thing up and be learning some incredibly powerful practices that are going to empower you to make this change. And I look forward to seeing you on another upcoming video real soon. Anxiety destroy.